Today, the DJI Mavic FPV racing drone leak. Everything we know about this new DJI FPV drone, coming right up. Hey guys, Felix here with Quadcopter Guide, and on this channel I help you get the most out of your drones and other camera gear. Today we're back at it with another rumor. Oh, I love rumors. Another leaked image hit, and we think it's the DJI racing drone. I called it DJI Mavic FPV racing drone just because, hey, it might be called that, it might not be. A couple other names which I think it might use, I'll talk about in a second here. First of all, here's the leaked image. Notorious DJI leaker Osita LV posted this photo on Twitter. Man, I wish I had the sources, but you can see that it's a highly censored image of a DJI drone. Also, you might be saying, hey, Felix, this kind of looks like a Mavic Air 1.5. If you take a look at the shell here, I would tend to agree with you. The Mavic Air, the original, looked kind of like this. Of course, we now have the Mavic Air 2, so does that make this the Mavic Air 1.5? Well, not really. If you take a look here at the motor, you can tell that this part didn't get censored, and thank you, censor guy, for not censoring this part. This will give us actually a lot of information to talk about and why this is not a typical Mavic DJI drone. Now, I don't know about you, but these motors are a lot heftier than any other DJI camera drone which they've brought out to the market to date. If you compare these to kind of a Mavic 2 Pro motor, I bet you these are 2, 3, maybe even 4 times the size, quite a bit larger. The top is a lot more open to let more air through for cooling. So this kind of hints at a very high performance type of machine. Also visible in this photograph, you can see that the propellers appear to be a tri-blade. Now, tri-blade propellers like this are used on FPV drones. Take a look at one I built. You can check out previous videos if you're interested in that kind of stuff. But this definitely looks like a FPV style drone. The typical 8mm prop nut is visible here. And so this is looking very promising for a high performance drone. Now, I have a hunch that this part here is not the front of the device, which many people online thought this was kind of the camera of the drone. I actually think that's the rear. And here's why I think that. If you take a look here, this black part actually looks like a battery that is slightly ejected. This looks like the battery is maybe 1 centimeter out of the drone, just kind of slides out the back. That's my thinking here. Another aspect which kind of points to this being the battery in the rear of the drone is, take a look here. That looks like a lot of dirt. So this thing definitely recently just got crashed. Maybe it just got crashed and they're taking it back to the lab or whatever. That's why I think this is the battery and definitely not the camera. I think the camera is going to be on this other end. While we're looking at the top of the device, check out this here. This looks to be part of the cooling system. Even though these kind of heat sink style fins look to be made out of plastic, I assume that this is to get rid of heat, which is inside the device for the flight controller or processing chip, typical DJI fashion. Now, in terms of the batteries, which I think this is, of course, the battery right here, rumors are that this will come in a 4S or 6S configuration. Now, for those of you that don't know, S just means how many cells are in the pack. The Mavic 2 Pro, for example, is a 4S pack, meaning that it's made of 4 lithium cells. Now, speaking of 4S and 6S, typical FPV drone batteries look like this. These are some batteries I received from CNHL. Thank you guys for sending these out to me. You'll see these in other videos. But this here, for example, is a 4S or 4-cell pack. You can see kind of like this. Now this, on the other hand, is a 6S pack. There's 6 cells in here. Now if we put these side by side, 4 cells, 6 cells. Of course, this has a slightly higher capacity of each cell, but take a look at the size difference. Just the width, that is quite a bit. So if this DJI racing drone, DJI FPV racing drone, or whatever you want to call it, if it comes in 2 different configurations, 6S or 4S, I have a feeling it's going to be different hardware. You're not going to just get one and then be able to put in whatever battery pack you want, because let's face it, the battery is going to have to be a different size, I think. Why would you want to get the 6S over the 4S, for example? 6S just gives you explosive power. I mean, the 4S one is not going to be a slouch, that's for sure, based on what you can see here with these huge motors. For example, the 6S Cinematic FPV drone, which I built, the 7-inch, mine is powered with 6S, and I can tell you, this thing screams. It's definitely not a quiet drone, and it is very, very powerful. So we're gonna have to see if this will really be available in multiple configurations, 4-cell or 6-cell. If it just comes out in 4-cell, I can kind of see it going that way, but let's see. Rumors are rumors. We'll have to see for more details. Now, of course, in typical DJI fashion, I expect these batteries to be DJI Intelligent batteries, so you're not going to be able to just go get your own aftermarket batteries like this and slap it in there. I assume that they're going to have normal Intelligent batteries, which you can only purchase through them, of course. And just with any DJI camera drone, that's just the way it is. You can like it or hate it, but I have a feeling it's going that way. Now, of course, this thing might be called something else besides DJI Mavic FPV Racing Drone. I just thought that name was kind of appropriate. Could be the Mavic Sport or DJI Mavic Action, or it might even get a new model name altogether. I'm not sure about that. What I do know is that this is going to be quite a bit of a different drone than the Mavic Mini, Mavic Air 2, or Mavic 2 Pro even. Will we see some of those features that we see on the DJI camera drones on this new DJI FPV racing drone? I think so, and there's some evidence of some of that stuff coming for sure. We'll take a look at that in a second. Will it be a pure racing drone? You know, I don't think so. Will you be able to use it for drone racing and going through gates and obstacles and stuff? Of course. Will it be competitive compared to custom built, very lightweight and just crazily optimized type of racing drones? Probably not, but that's not what this is aimed at. This is aimed at kind of, we'll call it the FPV gateway drone. If you get this drone and you get into FPV, you're going to get hooked most likely, and that'll just kind of get you into that whole FPV space, which has been blown up quite a bit recently. Speaking of crossover technologies from the DJI camera drones, it'll be interesting to see what this DJI FPV drone will get. Now look at this. This here leak is credited to 9to5 Google, and they found that the Android version of the DJI Fly app, it has some very curious strings for text to be shown to the user in the app. Now take a look at some of these. These are all prefixed with FPV_basic, pointing to, you guessed it, this new DJI FPV drone. Based on these strings, we actually have the usual battery and return to home messages, which are shown to us in the DJI apps for our camera drones, which we know and love. On the one hand, it'd be fantastic to, of course, rip around in full speed FPV and have obstacle avoidance. To me, this is a difficult topic. I just don't think that obstacle avoidance is up to snuff today, in today's day and age, to go super fast and to avoid obstacles like we, the users, expect it to. Just take a look at sport mode on all the DJI camera drones. When you enable sport mode, obstacle avoidance turns off. I just don't think we're up to that yet. So what does this mean? I could see this FPV racing drone or FPV drone from DJI to have different modes, of course. The normal mode with obstacle avoidance to kind of get your hands wet, feet wet, whatever you want to call it, to get into it and just to get used to that style of flying. I don't see this drone coming with its own type of goggle or remote control. Of course, they want you to go over to the DJI FPV system and just get more air units and build your own drones, or buy future DJI FPV drones which may come to market. Honestly, I still expect to see a fully acro mode on this FPV drone, and if you're not familiar with that in the FPV space, acro mode just means any assistance of the flight controller is turned off. Now, of course, on FPV drones, there's no GPS hold where you just put the drone up, let go of the sticks, and the thing just stays there perfectly still. That's not what FPV drones are about. Of course, it's a fully immersive experience. You're wearing the goggles. It's an HD digital clear quality, low latency, low enough latency to those analog guys that are saying, hey, it's not low latency. It is. If you compare it to the latency of a Mavic 2 Pro, for example, I think that's around 125 milliseconds at the lowest. It usually goes a little bit higher. The DJI FPV system is capable of a constant, 30, 40, 50 milliseconds, so it's a lot lower than a camera drone. And honestly, in my opinion, it's low enough to do what you need to do with these kinds of drones. Anyhow, acro mode. I fully expect this to have a full acro, a full manual mode. So if you let go of the sticks, guess what? Whatever your setting was, that's how the drone's going to stay, and it's going to fly, change altitude, whatever. And that's the kind of flying mode that you do want when flying an FPV drone. It allows you to do those kind of crazy moves you've seen in some of the videos online. And hey, that's just a much more tiring way of flying, trust me. When you fly one battery pack in full acro, you're kind of happy that there's a pause to plug in the next battery. Oh man, I can't wait to try this thing or find out even more information about it. Of course, you know what to do. If you want to know more information about this thing, don't forget to subscribe. All right, what's next? So who exactly is this DJI Mavic FPV racing drone meant for? Well, personally, I think this is going to be, like I mentioned before, the perfect kind of FPV gateway drone. It's for the people that have been kind of standoffish to FPV, perhaps just before DJI released the digital FPV system. They thought, man, this analog signal, I don't know if I want to deal with that. And personally, that was me. I was in that boat. The DJI FPV system came out. Now it's digital, it's clear, and you say, you know what? I'm getting warmed up to it, but maybe I don't want to choose the flight controller, the ESC, the motor, KV, all this stuff. I don't want to do all that. And I don't want to have to solder individual cables to the flight controller and ESC and all that. I just don't want to do that. This DJI FPV drone is for you. Whenever this thing comes out, I think it's going to do pretty well. And if you're in the boat of you want to try it, you want to get into it, but you don't want to solder, choose motors, all that stuff, this is going to be very interesting for you. This DJI FPV drone will get people into FPV with the least amount of resistance possible. Now, a couple things I'm very interested to find out. Of course, one of the main questions is, will this work with the existing DJI FPV system? I don't see for the answer to that being no. Why would they bring out another set of goggles, another remote, another communication specification for this specific drone? Could it come with a Mavic style remote? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. What I also want to know is, will it work with third-party remotes? Will I be able to put Crossfire, which is the system I use on my FPV gear right now, will I be able to bind it with that? Will I be able to install a Crossfire Nano receiver, for example, and use my Jumper T16 remote? I have a feeling the answer to that is going to be no. I have a feeling I'm going to be acquiring a DJI FPV remote in the future. Another interesting question is, will this thing run Betaflight? Can you imagine if it ran Betaflight and you can get in there and check out all the settings and change them and tweak them yourself? Of course, I don't see DJI offering a care refresh plan for this drone if that was the case, so I think we're going to see something similar, but we're not going to get access to it. That's my hunch. Hey, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something new, then please do give it a like. It really does help out the channel. And of course, for more on drones and camera gear and drone rumors, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this DJI Mavic FPV racing drone. And also, what is your favorite name for this thing? DJI Mavic Sport? DJI Mavic Action? DJI FPV something else? What do you think the name for this could be? I'll pick the best one and pin it or mention it down below. Let's get into a great conversation. And in the meantime, check out some of these other videos. This is pretty good, but you should check out this one. Can't wait to talk to you guys down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.